Bro,
on?
there he is. What's good,
How we
man?
doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm ready for the pod. I got a cold rosemary tea.
Dude, let's go. I got my
Yeah.
Mountain Valley.
Love it. Did you get a coffee?
Oh yeah, it's already gone.
Okay. What'd you get? An espresso?
Yeah, 2
Oh, yeah.
espresso shots.
Is the lighting good?
Yeah, it looks really
Perfect.
good, dude. I like
Perfect,
it.
dude. Shall we
Before we
vortex?
start, let's vortex it before we start.
Perfect.
I don't know if
So
Nick or Jack taught you, but I learned it from them.
yeah. What was it? From both, right? What is it?
Yeah.
What is it? 4 seconds in,
No.
2
So it's
seconds out.
21 in, 21 out,
Mm-hmm.
13 in, 13 out, 8 in, 8 out, 5 in, 5 out, 3 in, 3 out, 2 in, 2 out, 1 in, 1 out. Exhale as long as you can. And then when you breathe back in, set your intention for what you want to do.
Right. So do you want to explain a little bit maybe on what we're doing?
Yeah. So the vortex breath is essentially going to, because we always have our parasympathetic nervous system and our sympathetic nervous system. You could think of that as the rest and digest and the fight or flight of your nervous system and how everything is going. So you're essentially centering that and allowing it to operate from a state of equilibrium, and you're allowing yourself to operate on a better state of presence. And it really just, the best way I could put it is it puts you into a direct flow state.
Perfect.
All right, man. Let's do it.
Let's get ready. So 21,
13, 8, 5, 3, 2, 1. And then you exhale fully.
13, 8,
when you breathe
5.
back in, you're going to set your intention of what you want to do.
And that's where we stop?
Yeah. So after 1, it's
That's it.
you hold your breath as long as you can.
Perfect.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. It's good. Let's crush it, man.
Let's get ready. Fuck you.
Do this. Did we start?
We already started. Yeah. That's in the podcast. Yeah.
Dude, that's amazing. Let's go. We're already in.
Perfect, dude. Okay.
Dude, that's amazing. The viewer gets to see the vortex. That's good.
Oh,
I think that if everyone watching this, if you just do the vortex breath, like right before you're about to run a deep work session, I guarantee that it will help. Because so many people have dopamine dysregulation. They wake up, they scroll on their phone the second they wake up, screws their dopamine system.
Right. I want to touch on that. Give me a second. So besides that, I would like to talk about more breath work, maybe a little bit after. But yeah, I've used this one before podcasts, and I've also used another one which is 4 seconds in through mouth and nose and 2 seconds out through mouth. Like 50, 60 of those.
Some Wim Hof style stuff.
Kind of, a little bit, yeah.
That
Incredible,
activates your fight or flight, so it wakes you the hell up.
I did it once. uh, for a podcast in the middle of a fast, and it hit hard. I was like ready.
Dude, the fasting while doing the breath work it ain't no joke.
Absolutely
Like
not.
you think you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Chris, let's get started, dude. So,
Yeah.
who's the 𝐬𝐴𝐴 Who are you, bro?
𝐬𝐡𝐧𝐮𝐼R𝐴. So
𝐬𝐿.
yeah, so the background story for that is I was on health Twitter literally like an entire year before I started like
Mhm.
posting.
Mhm.
And during this time period, I had severe mitochondrial dysfunction, meaning that I had such little energy that I couldn't get out of bed for months. And every single day I'd wake up at 3 in the morning, I'd puke out stomach acid.
Right.
I couldn't eat anything without wanting to puke right afterwards. So my diet was essentially rice cakes for months and it was quite horrible. I would try
Mhm.
to go out and walk around the block. I had such little energy that my feet would start tingling, my arms would, and I just wanted to collapse while I was walking. And I was like, what is wrong with me?
Mm.
And I figured that I would have the answers because the prior 4 years I had done a pre-med major. So I
Mm.
studied biomedical sciences at ASU and I knew a lot of like the backgrounds for biochem, OChem, genetics, pharmacology, studied all of that stuff. I even looked into med school lectures on my own free time. And
Mhm.
every time I went to the doctor, like they pricked my arm, they did a bunch of blood work, and the blood work always came back normal. And they were like, yeah, dude, I don't know what to tell you. So they just threw me on a proton pump inhibitor to stop the stomach acid vomiting. And they
Mhm.
said, like, hopefully it stabilizes over time. We don't know what to tell you about the low energy. So I was like,
Mhm.
And I was getting insomnia too. And they're like, all right, we'll give you a drug for that. So they're
Mm.
trying to drug me up with everything. And I was like, I don't want to do that. And I also had
Mhm.
brain fog. And they actually prescribed me Adderall for that, and obviously that
Wow.
was a very fun drug to take at first, because it's a fucking amphetamine.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was very fun to take at first, but over time, that started to make everything like 100 times worse.
Mm.
So I guess the very beginning of the journey to healing started um, about 11 months ago. So
Okay.
February of 2023, I met my mentor. I was working as a personal trainer at the time, and my mentor was he's a chiropractor of all people. I met him because I did personal training and my clients. He used to be in a wheelchair and now he's leg pressing like 800 pounds. And I was like, how did you do that, dude? Like, you used to be super sick. And he's like, oh, you got to meet this guy. He's up in North Scottsdale. He's a legend. He knows how to heal people like no other. So I went up to him, and that was the beginning of my holistic health journey, I would say, and my
Mhm.
esoteric journey. He it's not quite esoteric, but rather if you think of like Ben Greenfield, right? The biohacking type, it's that combined with a lot of the other Twitter people like Grimhood and whatnot. So
Mm.
it's a little bit of combining nature and some modern biohacking. And I have a nice hybrid twist on that. So yeah, he started teaching me all this stuff. We first started off by learning about why seed oils are horrible for you. That was one of the first things I learned. Then I learned about actually doing certain protocols to revitalize the gut. I learned about mitochondrial healing. That's when I actually learned about Jack Cruz and all of
Mm.
the circadian rhythm, the sun exposure, all of that stuff is when I really got into that. But yeah, over the past, I would say 12 months, I used that biochem that I learned in college. I used that
Mhm.
OChem that I learned in college, and I used all of that pre-med stuff to actually teach myself how to heal myself and
Mm.
going quite well. Now I'm obviously pretty energetic. My energy's pretty great. The brain fog is gone. The
Mm.
insomnia still comes here and there because it's a little loud where I live. But my testosterone went from 500 to 800.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. And all my lifts in the gym have been quite incredible. I can literally run like 10 miles on command when I could
Wow.
barely walk like 10 months ago.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we learned all of that. And about a year and a half ago, even before that, I was open to the idea of holistic health because
Mhm.
I followed Grimhood on Twitter. He was the very first person I followed
Mm.
because I had excruciating OCD. Like I actually thought I was going crazy at some points. And Grimhood showed me about GABA glutamate balance. So
Mm-hmm.
big shout out to him. I would
Mm-hmm.
say that he's truly one of my biggest influences in the
Wow.
path that I'm going on right now. And shout out 𝐬𝐡𝐺𝐿 as well, because
Mm.
he's one of my biggest supplements influences. So yeah, that's kind of my story. In
Mm-hmm.
terms of what I actually wanted to do for my career during this point, ever since I was 8 years old. So I was born with a bunch of food allergies that are
Okay.
life-threatening. So if I ate like tree nuts or whatever, I would
Mm-hmm.
go into anaphylactic shock and die. And it
Mm.
was the same case for dairy, because I had a horrible immune reaction when I was born to the vaccines that were given to me. Horrible
Mm.
immune reaction. And
Wow.
I couldn't have chicken until I was 10 years old. So
Wow.
health was my life, like up to this point. And when I was about 7, 8 years old, I ate pizza for the first time and I went into anaphylactic shock and
Wow.
nearly died. My mom was holding me, bringing me to the hospital. They told us to
Wow.
wait in the waiting room, and my mom jabbed me with an EpiPen, and then they had to basically resuscitate me because I had lost all oxygen at this point in my life. So right around after that experience, I was very set on becoming a doctor and actually practicing healthcare in such a way that would help people. So from that point forward, I worked very hard in school, and school always came pretty natural to me. I've had a crazy memory since I was little.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I went on that path, and then high school, good GPA, and then go to college. I had like a 4.3 or something with the pre-med major. And then, yeah, I took the MCAT and literally everything. So I did all the volunteering, I did all the shadowing. I did literally everything to the point where I could apply to a very high quality med school and get
Mm-hmm.
accepted right now, even if I wanted. But the more I shadowed doctors, the more I came to learn that they have like 14 minutes with the patient. They primarily want to prescribe pharmaceuticals.
Right.
And they're put in a position where it's very difficult for them to really examine what's going on to somebody's health. They're put in a position where they only have so much time. They have to get
Mm-hmm.
so many patients through the door. And yeah, it's a big problem in the healthcare system. So I made the decision that I don't know what I'm going to do initially. And I
Mm-hmm.
made the decision just not to go to med school. I
Mm-hmm.
got this tattoo of a lion to symbolize bravery the
Mm.
day that I decided I'm not going to med school. And yeah, it's a risk, but I decided like I don't know what the plan is yet, but I'll figure something out. And eventually, after I healed myself, I was like, I need to start teaching other people this stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm on a mission on Twitter to grow the personal brand and to
Mm-hmm.
start teaching people stuff. And now it's my goal to run several different services in my 20s and run a supplement company along with a few other companies and just do e-com stuff, do my business, help people with free health advice, all that stuff. And then I'm essentially saving the capital so that I can start my own telehealth service. If you look at Rebel Health, they have a very similar model to what I'm looking to do in my own
Okay.
journey. Obviously, I would have my own twist on that based on
Mm-hmm.
my different perspectives I've gathered from medicine. But
Of
yeah,
course.
that's kind of my journey up to this point, and I'm still in the journey. I'm still learning a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still upgrading. I'm still getting healthier even. Um, and I'm still learning stuff every single day. So it's really good to just sit yourself down and be honest with yourself and be like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know everything yet. I'm
Mm-hmm.
22 years old. I don't know like everything about health yet. So yeah, and Twitter has been the greatest decision I've ever made in my life thus far because I've met so many incredible people on that platform. It's not
Mm-hmm.
even fun.
That's beautiful, Chris. There's a lot to unpack here. I have a
Yeah,
couple
man.
questions from what you've been saying. So, your introduction to biomed science was through that health scare of yours, correct?
Yeah. So
I
I
mean,
actually learned.
that's why you wanted to, like, that's
Yeah. When I
okay.
was a young kid, that's when I was like, all right, I'm gonna learn this. Now
Right.
it could be some sort of coping from PTSD. I don't necessarily know.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since then, my genuine interest has been healthcare,
Mm,
medicine, biomedical sciences, biohacking, all of that stuff.
Beautiful, dude. The
Yeah.
medical healthcare system, the centralized system. What's wrong with it, man? Through your experience, what's wrong
Yeah.
with it?
So the centralized healthcare system, right? Let's say you go and become a doctor. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
get like 10 to 15 minutes with each patient. So
Mm-hmm.
even if you genuinely have an amazing heart and you want to help people,
Mm-hmm.
that system and what you're being taught is
Mm-hmm.
inhibiting you from reaching your full potential as a physician. It's not allowing you to actually take the quality of time to sit down with a patient and give them a full plan. It's essentially catering to the pharmaceutical systems and saying you should just push this drug. And
Mm.
I believe that I forget his name, but he went on Joe Rogan. His first name is Brigham. He was saying that let's say that you're a physician and you're like and you have a 20-year-old in your office and you try to give them a preventative medicine blood panel, the insurance companies are going to look at that and they're going to be like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Even to an extent of where you can get the Department of Justice called on you. So it's quite a problem. And the worst part of all is that people are paying a ton of money for this.
Mm-hmm.
Even, man, like it's a problem because I do think that medicine is very needed, Western medicine. Like
Of
if
course.
somebody gets sepsis, right, they're gonna need that antibiotic. If somebody breaks their leg, they're gonna need to go to a physician. If
Mm-hmm.
somebody cuts themselves, they're gonna need to go to a physician. I worked as an EMT for several years, and just interventional medicine is brilliant, to be honest. But the problem comes when people start to get these chronic health issues. The problem comes where doctors start telling people plant-based nutritional advice because they were never taught one thing in med school and they're
Yeah.
going off of one thing that they read in a journal.
Right. Right. That's what I wanted to mention. Like, even if we get more time with the patients, we're still not taught the correct things.
Yeah, exactly. So I would like you to guess how many nutrition classes doctors are taught in medical school.
I want to guess the span of how long is medical school?
It's 4 years, then 2 to 7 years of residency, depending on your specialty.
Okay, so let's say like in total 8 years.
Yeah,
I'd say like around 5 hours.
0.
Okay.
0.
Wow.
I looked into every med school curriculum. Some DOs, some doctors of osteopathic medicine, they teach a little bit of it, but MD, 0.
That's crazy.
So, and guess
I
where
mean,
a lot of the funding for certain medical schools come from?
mm,
That's right, the pharmaceutical companies. Guess
mm-hmm,
who funds a lot of the FDA studies? A lot of pharmaceutical companies. It's a very top heavy system, and they're
right.
basically controlling whatever they want to happen. They push their own narratives. Um, you saw what happened to BPC 157. They're trying to ban it, but
Mm-hmm,
Ozempic is also a peptide, but they didn't ban it because they found a way to patent it.
yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's yeah, so I just want zero parts in working for corruption, and that's why I'm very big in the decentralized stuff. People
Mm-hmm,
like Jack Cruz, people like Tristan, they're uh they're all legends for supporting the decentralized movements. And even with currency, I'm starting to see how the centralized fiat banking is a problem.
right. Right. Absolutely. If nature's decentralized, why aren't we?
Yeah,
Right.
nature makes no mistakes. We do.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Exactly. So this thing you mentioned about studies, the pharmaceutical companies, um, they fund every study you read on PubMed, right?
Yeah, not all of them, but they fund a
Okay.
lot of them because they have so much money.
Most, of course.
Because
Perfect. That's
yeah,
that's
so
where that's
I worked for a research lab for 4 years as well,
mhm.
and I recall that the supervisor at the lab would always get frustrated. They're like, "Oh, the FDA doesn't want to fund this," and it would literally be like a natural way to fix diabetes study.
Mhm.
And they'd be like, "Oh, the FDA doesn't want to fund this. The
Right.
NIH doesn't want to give a grant for this."
Right. Yeah, that's where so let me give an example here. That's why you can't trust the studies. You can't just say there's no
Yeah, no,
data on it,
I
right?
uh I created a club in college actually, and it was dedicated to looking over studies and nitpicking every aspect of them to see if they're BS. For example, I bet you remember Harvard came out, or it was Harvard or Tufts or one of those high prestige universities. They came out with a study saying that red meat essentially like strongly increases your risk of type 2 diabetes.
Right.
And so I bought the study. I paid like $40 to read the full thing. Guess how they came to that assumption?
I don't know, through McDonald's or something?
Nope. They gave the participants a questionnaire, and the participants they asked, "Did you eat red meat or not? How many times a week?" And then they took that, plugged it into a statistical software,
Yeah.
and then created a bar graph or some sort of linear regression. And they started saying like, "Oh yeah, this is highly correlated," and that's how they got the
Right.
data. And then
And
that got
imagine
on
if
news stations like Fox, like
right.
CNN, like NBC. It got onto all of them, and they're like, "Be careful about red meat."
Right,
So
right.
that's the problem with the research. People don't understand the context of it. We can even
Right.
use this in examples of carnivore studies, even on obviously the more esoteric health side of Twitter. Everybody loves to use the Hazda as an example, but what these people don't understand is that, yeah, the Hazda can eat all of these carbs year round because they're in the sunlight all the time and their mitochondria are coupled. Like that's the reason. But people will try to apply that to a Swedish dude, and the same. It's not going to be the same outcome, dude. The
Yeah.
Hazda tribe and some Swedish dude are going to have completely different genetics for that type of processing, and they have completely different evolutionary circumstances that they evolved in. But yeah, people don't understand context, man. It's a big problem.
No, that is huge. Yeah.
Even with seed oil studies, like they refuse to fund randomized control trials. But even that, when you look at a randomized control trial, it's are they controlling for smoking? Are they controlling for alcohol consumption? Are they looking at how long somebody's been detoxifying from seed oils? Because we know that
Okay.
the half-life is between 4 to 8 years until you get those out of your cells. So, and are they asking about what they're
That's
supplementing?
fucking
Are
crazy.
they asking if they have any gut problems? Are they asking if their thyroid is good? And you can claim that somebody's healthy and has all of these blood metrics, but guess what the blood work metrics are compared to when you're going to get your blood done? Guess what those reference ranges are compared to? The average US population. That is what they base or in the US at least, they base it off of the average population, but that doesn't make sense for the reference ranges because the average person in the US is unhealthy and sick. So it skews everything. And that's why when people look at blood work, a lot of the time it comes back normal, quote unquote. But in reality, there's a lot of problems and the reference ranges are too wide.
Right.
And
It's normal to the average.
yeah, and people aren't getting diagnosed with the right conditions that they may have. It's a big
Right.
problem.
Fuck. Everything's so broken.
Everything is so broken. So that's why I'm cultivating these perspectives. And yeah, I'm going to be putting it all into my telehealth service, but that's years down the road. But yeah, there's so much to learn. And the more I look into it, the more messed up it is. For example, one of the people that had a very prominent role in founding the peer review system for research was 𝐬𝐡𝐧𝐮 Maxwell's father. You know who 𝐬𝐡𝐧𝐮 Maxwell is? Jeffrey
No.
Epstein's accomplice.
Okay.
Yeah, her dad is the one. He had a huge role in founding the peer review system. That's on the edge of conspiracy, but it's interesting to me.
Yeah. No, that's all of these things are wild, man. Yeah. Dude, Chris, so are you still I think have you worked with your food allergies?
Yeah, so when I was born, I had 40 of them. So they were life-threatening when I was born too. So like if I ate chicken at the time, I would have gone into anaphylactic shock.
What
Yeah,
about
so,
chicken?
dude,
Like
so yeah, when you have a food allergy, like a genuine food allergy, it's not like lactose intolerance. That's just an inability to break down the sugar lactose. Whereas if you have an actual milk allergy, you are like your immune system recognizes the whey protein and the casein protein as a foreign invader, and it
Okay.
does a
Wow.
very harsh inflammatory response
Right.
that causes severe inflammation in your body. And if you have a certain threshold and severity of that, like let's say I ate a tree nut or something, right? My body would give such a harsh inflammatory response to that that it would actually cause anaphylactic shock to happen because the body isn't expecting to go
Mhm.
under that level of stress.
Mhm.
And then anaphylactic shock, you lose your ability to breathe and then you die if it
Mhm.
gets too bad. So it's very
Mhm.
scary.
Right.
Yeah, so with
Mhm.
allergies, it's all about the protein.
Mhm.
And your body essentially is your body at the antibody, specifically the IgE antibody in your body has a big problem with certain foods, and it recognizes them as if you like swallowed cyanide.
Right. Okay. Have you been able to fix this tolerance towards these allergies?
No, so over time it's gone down. I notice you can test
Mhm.
this via blood test and skin
Mhm.
test.
Okay.
So blood test, they just take your blood, put it in a lab, mess around with some things. Skin test is cool. So it's where you go to the allergy doctor and they prick your back with these things. The control group, so the baseline that they compare everything to, they prick your back with a little bit of histamine and they see
Okay.
how big the welt gets. And then
Wow.
they compare your other allergies. So they prick you with the allergens on your back or your skin. So, like, let's say I'm doing milk, right? They'll prick my back with some milk and then they'll see how big and red the welt gets in comparison to
Wow.
the histamine group. And then
Okay.
that's how they determine that you have certain allergies. And then they use the blood test as another metric. And then once you do those two things, and like it seems like you're good, they'll
Mhm.
have you go to the allergy doctor, and then they'll do
Mhm.
something called a food challenge where you eat very tiny amounts of it in front of
Mhm.
the doctor in a controlled setting, and then they
Okay.
see if you outgrew that. I had to do that with about 30 foods when I was younger that I
Wow.
outgrew, and yeah, I still am unable to have peanuts, tree nuts, dairy, lentils, sesame, chickpea, and green pea. So
Okay.
all of those off the table, and any somewhat of protein in there would risk me of anaphylactic shock.
Wow.
And yeah, they did it with cashews one time, and the
Mhm.
welts actually overtook my entire back. Like that's how massive
Wow.
it was. And they had to put
Wow.
like a bunch of steroids on it. It was pretty wicked.
Wow. That's crazy, dude. I've never
But
heard about these tests
yeah, it's pretty
on the
rare, man.
skin.
A
Yeah.
lot of people they'll like when I go to a restaurant, for example, they'll just assume that it's like a gluten intolerance or lactose intolerance where you just don't feel good after. No, like a
Mhm.
lot of people don't recognize that with this, like it's life and death. Like
Right.
that's how
Mhm.
scary it is. So yeah, it's pretty rare, but ever since we've been adding more vaccines, there's been a
Mm.
trend actually that obviously there are more cases of this happening. And yeah, it's a very common thing that you see with severe vaccine injury.
Mhm.
And then
Wow.
yeah, I was gonna say something else. I forgot though. But yeah, when I was born also, I had so I have something called they think that I had mast cell activation syndrome.
Mhm.
So it's a cascade of all these autoimmune symptoms. So when I was young, I had to do a breathing treatment before school every day because I had such severe asthma, and that lasted
Mhm.
until about the 5th grade. So until I
Wow.
was like 12. But yeah, I had asthma, I had eczema everywhere, seborrheic dermatitis, all
Mhm.
sorts of these horrific autoimmune conditions that won't stop.
Mhm.
And I managed the autoimmune stuff, like that's mostly taken care of
Mhm.
much better than it used to be. But the food allergies that's one of the things where if you find the cure for that, you will become like an actual billionaire.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, I want to move a little bit out of topic through this,
Yeah.
kind of in the same topic, which is through our calls, you've mentioned your philosophy on health. You have pillars, right? Do you
Yeah.
want to talk about these?
Yeah. Yeah. So I believe that before you start taking all these supplements and stuff, there's really four things that you're going to have to prioritize just
Mm-hmm.
off the top of my head. First one is circadian rhythm. Second one is sleep. Third one is nutrition. fourth one is movement/fitness. So
Mhm.
let's get into each of them. So the circadian rhythm is your body's natural 24-hour clock.
Mhm.
And yeah, they did these studies and they put these dudes into like a really dark room or a cave, and their brain actually still had an internal clock going, they found. So
Mhm.
we have this built into us, and our clock syncs up with the sun and obviously the light. And the biggest predictor of your circadian rhythm is going to be light environment. But there's other things involved too, like what time you eat, what time you
Mhm.
first socialize in the morning, what
Mhm.
time you drink. All of these things play roles, but light is the biggest. So, in very simple terms, the best thing that you want to do to optimize your circadian rhythm
Right.
is right when you wake up, do not scroll on your phone. Please don't. Get right up, watch the sunrise. That's
Mhm.
huge. Watching the sunrise. If you haven't tried it, it's quite literally like a caffeine shot.
Yeah.
Um, Getting that morning light exposure is going to anchor your circadian rhythm the rest of the day, and it's going to stabilize your energy levels. And then avoid caffeine for about an hour and a half until your cortisol spikes. That's your stress hormone that wakes you up, really. So wait to have caffeine about an hour and a half after waking, sometimes 2 hours for certain people. Get a high protein and fat meal in right when you first wake up. And
Mhm.
then, yeah, drink a bunch of water, get your electrolytes in, and then get as much natural daylight as you can, I would say. That's another very
Mhm.
important thing. It's helping
Mhm.
with those circadian cues. And just get that UV light on you for a little bit. Like the more melanin you have, the better. Or the more
Of
that you're
course.
allowed to make, the better it is. So yeah, I do about an hour a day. And even when the UV is not, like I don't burn anymore. So it's pretty
Mhm.
nice. You got to taper your way up for sure. And then at nighttime, the big thing is do not look at blue light after the sun sets. So go watch the sunset. That will improve your deep sleep. And then right after that, just chill, read a book, get some infrared lights, get some red light, put it on the floor. You're not going to
Mhm.
want to have overhead lights at night because we have something called um, intracellular retinal ganglion cells in the bottom portion of our eye.
Okay.
And these cells, these are what actually take in the blue light and communicate it all the way to the SCN in the back of your brain and
Mhm.
tell you that it's 12 in the afternoon based on the blue light signal.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's way better to have like a Himalayan rock lamp on the floor than to have overhead lighting at nighttime. And yeah, that's what I would say just to optimize the circadian rhythm.
Mhm.
Now, sleep kind of goes hand in hand with this,
Of
but
course.
another big thing to consider with sleep is you cannot have too high of a glutamate to GABA balance. So cut out MSG out of your diet. That's garbage, first of all. Second
Absolutely.
ingredient, Chick-fil-A is MSG.
Mhm.
And not only that, but you should be doing GABAergic substances like your L-theanine, your passion flower,
Mhm.
or lemon balm, those types of things.
Lemon
So yeah,
balm. Mhm.
GABAergic substances, very helpful. And then
Can you
I
explain what GABAergic means?
yeah, that's my bad. So glutamate is the gas of your brains.
Mhm.
GABA is the brakes. So
Mhm.
glutamate, it enhances action potential frequency and allows more communication between your neurons. So think about when you drink a bunch of coffee and get very anxious right after.
Mhm.
That's that's how I would describe glutamate as. It makes your brain just go haywire and it can cause OCD, anxiety, a bunch of mental health disorders if it's too bad.
Mhm.
And then GABA is the brakes of your brain. So it inhibits and
Mhm.
lowers the action potential frequencies that are going on. And it allows your neurons to just like chill out, calm down. So yeah, GABAergic substances are very good, but
Right.
I would avoid any sort of like benzo for that reason because benzos destroy the GABA system in your brain. And even things like phenibut will destroy that as well, which is very problematic.
Is
So
glycine GABAergic?
yeah, glycine is pretty good for the
Right.
whole GABA thing. I used to supplement like just straight up GABA, and it was horrible. I felt horrible after doing it. It
Okay.
yeah, it didn't go very well for me. But yeah, I think lemon balm and malungu bark are two of my favorites that are
Mhm.
GABAergic. You'll know that it's GABAergic when you just stop thinking about anything. Like
Mhm.
let's say when you drink alcohol, for example. that actually is GABAergic to a certain extent. It makes you stop thinking as much. It makes you just let loose and go chill. But yeah, when you take Malungu bark or Magnolia bark, those are two amazing ones. It's like nature's benzo. It makes you just stop thinking. It makes you just chill out, be present. It's really good stuff. Shout out Greenwood. He has the best Malungu bark I've ever had. Go check out his shop. Very good stuff.
Absolutely. I'm about to try a new supplement for sleep.
What is it?
And again, I think something that we should rewarn the listeners is before trying any supplement for sleep, you want to dial in your circadian rhythm.
Dial it
right?
in. You can't
Absolutely.
band-aid. You can't band-aid your sleep. Because
Right.
guess what?
Right.
If your circadian rhythm isn't dialing, you're not going to get as good REM sleep, and you're not going to get as good of deep sleep, and you're going to wake up groggy.
You're just
wake up
fixing
low
symptoms with the pills.
Yeah, it's no better than what Big Pharma is doing. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
So, yeah, please don't start taking supplements and calling yourself a biohacker if you're not going to fix the very basis of your biology.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I love that, dude. Right. The supplement I wanted to talk to you about. I've been trying glycine for a while with chamomile teas,
Yeah, how
baking
much?
soda.
Oh, chamomile tea is amazing. Super GABAergic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it because of
the apigenin?
Right.
Yeah, dude. I love it's one of my favorite stuffs before bed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you mix that with baking soda, you just
Dude, have you tried the baking soda? That stuff is amazing.
It's
get it aluminum.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, get it aluminum free, of course, but
Right.
it provides that carbon dioxide for your cells
Right.
to actually undergo the oxygenation process as you sleep, and it heals your tissues, heals your cells. It is quite remarkable.
Crazy. Yeah, what I'm about to try is magnesium acetyl L-threonate.
Dude, you mean magnesium acetyl tartrate?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good form of magnesium. It has a very trace amount of taurine in there.
Right.
And it has an acetyl group. So anything that says acetyl on it, little hack, it's going to be able to cross the blood-brain barrier more easily. That acetyl group aids in that process chemically.
Right.
So yeah, that's one of my favorite ones before bed.
You've tried it.
I used to do glycinate, but the acetyl L-tartrate actually works better for me. The Doublewood brand is very good. And I feel that's because I obviously don't take taurine like very much. I used to, but for whatever reason, I ran out of it and I haven't bought new. But the acetyl L-tartrate is great, and you're already getting your glycine in through your magnesium glycinate. You're getting a trace amount, and I just personally prefer to get my glycine in through bone broth and those types of things. And then nutrition-wise, just a little hack. If you're eating a bunch of muscle meat that's rich in methionine, you're going to want to get glycine in your diet as well. So get your bone broth in, get your gelatin in, because if you don't get your glycine in and you're eating a bunch of meat, it will contribute to aging and cause some problems. So get your glycine in, and then it's perfect. Meat is amazing.
So let's touch on nutrition.
Yeah, perfect gateway into nutrition. So
absolutely.
The biggest thing I would say is don't be too neurotic about this one. People get very neurotic about it, and the amount of cortisol that you end up secreting and making yourself stressed with isn't worth it at the end of the day. So if you need to go to a restaurant or something that has seed oils here and there, like, do not shoot yourself in the foot over it. It happens.
Right.
I personally don't, because I'm still in the process of healing. And I think that let me put it like this. If your circadian rhythm is really dialed and you're not surrounded by that many EMFs, your nutrition is going to play less of a role, and you're going to be more resilient to bad foods.
Of course.
Now, if you're living right by a 5G tower and your Wi-Fi router is on at night and you're EMF pilling yourself and your circadian rhythm sucks, your nutrition is going to be really important, and you want to make that perfect. So
a plus is sleeping next to your phone.
Yeah, makes me pissed. Yeah, it's a big problem with the nutrition, because people will be like sitting under a blue light all day and doing all these horrible things circadian rhythm wise, and they'll also eat bad. Like, just fix your circadian rhythm first, and you'll be able
Right.
to have that leeway with what you eat. But
Mhm.
nutrition wise, I just say red meat, get your fish in.
Mhm.
It has DHA in it. DHA is it allows your brain to be more tight, the cells in there, and it doesn't allow as many electrons to actually leach out of there. And it's really important for your brain. Like DHA is it's like your brain's food, man. It's really, really, really,
Mhm.
really, really important. So yeah, get your fatty fish in there. Not too much though, because you don't want too many polyunsaturated fatty acids. If you're going to eat fish, eat a ton of saturated fat in your diet. The people
Mhm.
that say that saturated fat is bad for you are really stupid. No offense, like complete idiots that don't know how to look at any sort of science.
Right.
Saturated fat is the best fat that you can get. I like
Mhm.
coconut oil. That's one of the best ones because
Mm.
the longer chain fatty acids in there, they help you burn more fat and speed up metabolic rate. And then
Mhm.
the MCTs can be used for energy immediately. So
Right.
yeah, that's one of my favorites. Beef tallow is my personal favorite. It's freaking delicious.
Mhm.
Um, Make sure it's grass fed.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say there. And then olive oil, I like it. I would moderate that one slightly more though if you don't know where the source is coming from. But I'm Greek, so I love olive oil. It's
Mhm.
one of the tastiest cooking oils. Just make sure you're not
Absolutely.
cooking olive oil at a really high temperature because it does have a lower smoke point compared to the
Mhm.
saturated fats.
Compared to coconut oil, which I think is the
Yeah,
best. No, for
yeah,
that?
yeah. Coconut oil. I think yeah, ghee is the best actually. Butter ghee
Really?
is best for high ghee especially has one of the
Mhm.
highest smoke points out there.
Okay.
Um, let's see. For meat, red meat that's grass fed. Get your wild caught fish in there. Do not eat farmed fish. Do
Mhm.
not eat farmed seafood. It's
Mhm.
freaking trash. Like, please don't do that.
Yeah.
Um, they actually have to add they add dyes into there to
Right.
add coloration back in. But yeah, get your organs in there. Get your liver. Get your heart. Get your kidney. Kidney is a great food for allergies, by the way.
Mhm.
Um, and then yeah, get your organs in there. Do desiccated organs if that doesn't work. Do desiccated thyroid. Do whatever.
Mhm.
And then vegetables, I think that they can be fine. I don't eat raw vegetables. I think that they can be quite harmful in the gut. So I make sure to always cook vegetables when I eat them. And then mushrooms are pretty good. What else? I don't like to be like all crazy about like the nightshade family and all of that stuff. You will, I think that you'll be just fine eating those.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm thinking, um, for my carnivores out there, for my keto people out there, carbs are not going to kill you.
Yeah.
Carbs are good and you can use them for energy. The
Mhm.
reason that carbs end up being bad is because people have insulin resistance, either because
Mhm.
they have a gut issue, circadian dysregulation, all of these things. And just by cutting out carbs, you're not fixing the root cause. You're pulling a
Right.
big pharma and you're treating something super downstream and you're not
Mhm.
actually fixing the root cause of what's going on. So carbs are good. Eat them, use them for energy,
Mhm.
use them, yeah, use them essentially is my point with that. So I do a lot of white rice. I even do
Mm.
maple syrup, honey, fruits, but I would stay away from like gluten. That's the one that I think is pretty problematic for a lot of people. And
Okay.
then another food I would avoid is soy. That's pretty,
Mhm.
you know, what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Yeah, and then I think oats, as long as they're glyphosate free, can be
Mhm.
fine in moderation. Pork actually is a good source of thiamine, and thiamine is actually what cured my acid reflux, where I was
Wow.
puking out stomach acid every night. So that's another thing that I would recommend. Just do it on occasion because pork is high in omega-6 relatively, and make sure it's pastured and coming from a really good source.
Of course.
And yeah, I would avoid bacon. That's way too fatty, probably. And then, yeah, it's
Mhm.
just very simple. Like, get single ingredient foods. Try not to eat too much fast food. Try not to eat refined sugars like high fructose corn syrup. I think that maple syrup and honey can be fine, but berries are really good for nutrients. Citrus fruits are really good for vitamins too. And
Mhm.
then, yeah, I think that it's really good to download the app Chronometer and to
Okay.
just kind of dial that in because Chronometer tracks micronutrients in each food.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, you can really see what you're getting. And then The one vitamin I have trouble getting
Mm-hmm.
is vitamin E.
Okay.
Vitamin E is mostly in stuff like sunflower oil, wheat germ oil, that type of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And yeah, it's hard to get by. So I just supplement it because I think
Mm-hmm.
it's so important for actually displacing seed oils, which brings me to my next point.
Right.
Seed oils are the worst thing that you can eat, probably. They oxidize in your cells and they cause a bunch of damage to them. And then they take forever to leave your cells and they kind of just accumulate in there over time.
Right. Like
And
8 years, right? Or something like that?
they're extremely inflammatory. So linoleic acid is the starting precursor of seed oils.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's converted into DHGLA, and then it's converted into I believe the DHGLA is converted into something called arachidonic acid.
Okay.
And arachidonic acid is really inflammatory. It activates PGE2, it activates COX2, and these cause harsh inflammatory responses in the body. And
Okay.
guess what activates that? Insulin. So when you're combining seed oils with high glycemic index foods, guess what it's doing? It's causing a great degree of inflammation, which is
Okay.
why I say, like, please don't eat a bunch of seed oils and carbs. Like McDonald's fries are my favorite example. You're eating a ton of seed oils that are fried at a high temperature with a very high glycemic index food. And it is quite frankly a recipe for disaster.
Right.
So yeah, I would say like avoid the seed oils at all costs. So like canola oil, soybean oil, cottonseed oil, grapeseed oil, corn oil, rice bran oil, just that type of stuff. And yeah, avoid those at all costs
Car
because
lubricants.
yeah, those omega-6s will just accumulate in your cells too, which is really problematic and is causing long-term chronic inflammation. Some things that you can do to detox from them. Step 1, cut them out of your diet.
Yeah.
Step 2, vitamin E. It actually displaces some of the polyunsaturated fatty acids. Step 3, eat fish oil. Not fish oil, sorry, eat fish. Fish oil can actually be toxic. I don't know why I said fish oil. Yeah, so stay away from fish oil and do like cod liver oil or just eat fatty fish. The
Okay.
EPA in the fish is going to actually inhibit that delta 5 desaturase enzyme from turning it inhibits the delta 5 desaturase enzyme from turning the DGHLA into arachidonic acid, which is the problematic one once you get too much inflammation. So yeah, I would do the big 3, just cut them out. Stuff high in omega-3, specifically EPA. And then another good one, of course, is vitamin E. And then tetrahydrocurcumin is a very powerful anti-inflammatory.
Okay. Sauna. Working out.
Yeah. Activated charcoal plus sauna is good for just general toxins working out, which will bring me to my next thing, movement. So
Perfect.
yeah, movement is, you have a lot of flexibility here. So there's several things you can do. You can go on the assault bike. My boy Richard does that. Yeah, go on the assault bike and do just a crazy workout. Imagine that a lion is chasing you.
Right.
And go as hard as you can. Do that like twice a week. That's gonna be really good for your mitochondria. Do resistance training either 3 to 5 times a week, and then just people that make really good programs are Gain Trust Mikey, Ajax, who else? Bowtied Ox. They make really good programs. I'm not too well versed in fitness. I know like the basic movements. I'm pretty decent at it because I was a trainer for a bit, but that's not like my main passion. I just usually use other people's programs. And then I like to run a lot, but I use it as an nootropic. But one of the best things you can do for burning fat is walking a shit ton, getting like 10 to 20K steps in a day. That's gonna be, especially outdoors, that's gonna be really good.
What would you say? Cold exposure as well. I want to touch on that with you. Yeah,
dude,
right.
It's my favorite one. I do cold exposure 5 days a week.
Wow.
2 days I do cold shower. 3 days I do ice bath.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, cold exposure is going to be really good. It's going to activate your sympathetic nervous system a little bit, and that's going to bring up norepinephrine, The norepinephrine will actually go into your cells and be transmuted into there, and then it'll help aid in the process of uncoupling your mitochondria. So
Right.
rather than using the mitochondria to make energy, it's going to change the function of the mitochondria to release heat. And it's essentially going to uncouple them and make it a very energetically efficient process. I
Mm-hmm.
love doing this in the sun. So I have like a
Of
big
course.
ice bath that I throw outside, and then I bring like 150 pounds of ice in there. And then, yeah, I hop in for like 5 to 10 minutes. It is one of the best experiences. It's really good for boosting your focus. It's really
Mm-hmm.
good for getting over drug addictions. It's really good for it's really good for fat loss. It's really
Of
good
course.
for stabilizing energy levels throughout the day. It's really
Mm-hmm.
good for promoting sleep later in the night. It's
Right.
really good for your heart health. It's really good for stress resilience. There's so many things that cold
Mm-hmm.
exposure is good for. And if my Peters, I'll call you, are hating on this take, there is a difference between acute stress and chronic
Right.
stress. And acute stress is just a very short-term temporary stress that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's called hormesis, essentially. It's the same concept with the sauna.
Mm-hmm.
And chronic stress is actually very long-term. So that's why it's good to give yourself days to just chill out,
Mm-hmm.
um, not stress yourself. Just chill out and life max. But to their defense, people that disagree with cold exposure, if you have a lot of thyroid issues, it
Right.
does make sense to be careful with that. And I
Be-
totally understand that.
because of the stress.
Yeah, you don't want to overstress the body too much when you're healing the thyroid, when you're
Okay.
healing the immune system, when you're doing all of these things. It's actually counterproductive because it's taking your body out of that healing state and kind of pushing it past the limits. And then
Right.
obviously it makes your healing state better over
Mm-hmm.
time. But yeah, it's definitely something I wouldn't do if I had a thyroid problem.
Right. If folks want to start this cold exposure journey,
Yes.
how do we do it?
Yeah, so start off very slow. So just do
Mm-hmm.
a cold shower for like a minute at first. Do that for a week. Taper up to like 5 minutes in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start bringing out the big guns. Then you go
Right.
in the ice bath for like a minute and
Right.
then 5 minutes. Please don't do this, but I once did like 20 minutes. It was crazy. At like 40 degrees, I thought I was gonna die.
It's crazy because it's hard to like warm up afterwards, right?
Yeah. So that's actually good because guess what your body is doing? Your body is trying to warm itself up
Mm-hmm.
internally,
Mm-hmm.
and it's even using some fat to heat yourself up, and it's burning stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, it's really good to do that cold exposure and just let yourself freeze for a little bit. Just suffer.
Right.
Like just go David Goggins mode, tough it out. It's gonna be
Yeah.
so worth it in the
You want
end.
to?
It's like one of the best in the tropics that you can do.
Oh, absolutely.
Like
I mean,
hands, I'll probably gonna take one after this cold
it's because
shower.
of the amount of like adrenaline.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of adrenaline, a little bit of norepinephrine, and then it
Right.
actually boosts your dopamine for 2 to 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're very motivated after, you'll notice.
You want to know something crazy?
Yeah,
So my journey for cold exposure, I think it started like 2 years ago. I read
yeah,
Wim's book. I
dude.
did cold
That's
showers for like 30 days, and then I gone in the cold plunge at 12 degrees Celsius. Um, for my first time. I don't know how much it's Fahrenheit. But yesterday I brought my sister to do her first cold plunge. It's her first time trying cold exposure. Guess what temperature she did? 3 minutes for her first time.
12?
2 degrees Celsius.
Oh my, how, I want to look up how cold that is. Two.
I could not understand how she did it.
Oh, dude, that's insane. That's 35 degrees
Insane.
Fahrenheit.
For her
Yeah,
first
that's insane.
time. She did a
That is
round for
savage
3 minutes and a round for a minute. I could not believe
dude.
it.
I did the 2 degrees Celsius once for 12 minutes and I wanted to die. Like,
Oof.
so I was listening to music. I had
Mhm.
Nickelback on, all artists. And dude, their music sounded like it was twice the speed afterwards. Like I have no idea what
Interesting.
happened, but it was the greatest high I've experienced in my entire life because I
Of
laid in the
course.
sun afterwards and it was like
Oof.
100 degrees outside and the
Mhm.
UV is like 10. And I just laid there, dude. It
What
was
a
the
day.
greatest experience of my life to this day.
Of course.
Like I would
Okay.
recommend it to anyone. but be careful.
So we touched on cold exposure. We've gone through your health philosophy, the pillars. We're kind of talking about fat
Nutrition, I
loss.
wanted to throw in one thing.
Right.
If you drink coffee, if you drink
Mm.
caffeine, if you drink alcohol, and if you eat white rice, please supplement TTFD. It's a form of thiamine. Those 3 foods that I just listed, they deplete your body of thiamine, and you can get acid reflux, you can get insulin resistance, you can get all
Wow.
these issues if you're deficient in thiamine, and it's my favorite vitamin to talk about. So I just
TT
wanted to
what?
tip that. TTFD.
Right.
Yeah, so
FD.
Thiamax has a very good brand of it. But yeah, thiamine is the GOAT supplements, in my opinion, just for vitamins that you can take. So yeah, I would recommend that to anyone.
Thiamax, TTFD, vitamin B1.
Dude, I was puking up stomach acid and I started supplementing that. It
Mhm.
cured it. And I told the doctor just to flex, and he was like, pseudoscience, not real.
Right. I might have to experiment with this.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
This
please.
is before my first meal, right?
Yeah, before dinner. Yeah, every time you have a high carb meal, I would do that. Or when you have
Okay.
like white rice or coffee. Yeah.
I'm gonna experiment with this, and I'll let you know what's good.
Yeah.
Thiamax, I have it over here. Perfect.
Yeah, dude, it's
Good.
so amazing.
So we touched on cold exposure, and we were talking about fat loss. You wrote a huge Bible.
Mega thread ebook on
Yes,
Twitter. That I
on
said
fat
how
loss.
ebook
Do
on
you want to
Twitter.
break it down with me a little bit?
Yeah, man. So there's a lot. I like to put it as, and I got this from Richard and Dennis. Shout out you two on Twitter. But there's certain levers you can pull to actually start the whole fat loss process. So the very first thing I would like to say is fat loss is very hard, right? You'll lose the fat and then you'll gain it back, and then you'll lose it and you'll gain it back, and it just seems like you'll never get to that crazy physique. And the one thing that you're going to need on this journey is to have a killer mindset, killer mentality. Like, get a reason of why you're doing this.
Right.
Write it down if you need to. You need to callous your mind and be ready to do things that you're not going to like. Doing a crazy high intensity interval training workout, you're not going to like doing that, and you're going to have to push past it. You're not going to like having to cut your calories for a certain period of time, but you have to push past it. You're not going to like eating all that protein, probably. You got to push past it. It's just life. Like, if you want that, there are certain sacrifices you have to make. So yeah, I would highly recommend just callousing your mind, getting ready for the journey. But the first thing I would say straight up is cut out the freaking seed oils.
Yeah.
We talked about that already. And circadian rhythms are to be important. Eating high protein, eating lower calories, eating mostly saturated fats, and avoiding more polyunsaturated fats for omega-6s. For carbs, literally, so the point of eating carbs is to eat them when you're insulin sensitive. So
After a workout or something,
yeah, so
right?
eat your carbs post workout because you're going to be most insulin sensitive. And if you're insulin resistant and you have too much of it, it can actually tend to store some of those foods that you're eating in energy as fats, and it can increase fat storage. So
Okay.
yeah, be very diligent about that. Be smart about it. Eat your carbs post workout. Always pair your carbs with a protein because
course.
it's going to lower the actual insulin spike. And then, yeah, I prefer to not snack for the sake of prioritizing leptin. Leptin is the hormone that suppresses your appetite, and it's heavily regulated by how much you eat, like often. So eat like 2 to 3 meals a day. That's preferred. Even OMAD is pretty sweet. It's 1 meal a day. And then not only that, but it's heavily regulated by your circadian rhythm. So please make sure that you're regulating your circadian rhythm. Otherwise, you're going to be hungry all day. Like, if you have a horrible night of sleep and you're starving the next day, that's why. Yeah, so that's another lever. Let me think about the ice baths are going to be really good. Just getting
Detox process.
just getting your steps in, walking around. That's going to be another good one. And then off the top of my head, let me think what I do for fat loss.
Maybe
There
more
are,
melanin that you mentioned as well.
yeah. Melanin's very important.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was actually told this by Eric, founder of Base Subs, but I was already doing it to a decent degree and it was working. So mainly prioritize coconut oil as your fat. Did the
Mm-hmm.
thumbs up. Yeah, so
Oh
mainly
my God.
prioritize coconut oil as your fat, and
Yeah.
then injectable L-carnitine paired with garlic extract,
Right.
the 𝐬𝐡𝐽𝐥𝐸 brand. It's going to be very powerful because it's
You've been doing injectable L-carnitine?
oh yeah, oh yeah, it's
Really?
very yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So injectable L-car, you just inject it right like 45 minutes before a workout. The 𝐬𝐡𝐽𝐥𝐸 brand is really good. And that this is not medical advice, by the way. Like, please do your own research. But
Wink, wink.
you inject it, and then you have like a fast digesting carbohydrate like orange juice, maple syrup, honey, and then it allows your body to essentially use more fat for fuel. That helps burn that quicker. So yeah, I would highly recommend that, but not medical advice, of course. And then
Beautiful.
MOTSD is another good one. It helps with mitochondrial dysfunction, and it helps speed up the rate of fat loss. It's a peptide that you have to constitute yourself. So yeah, that's another good one. That's another good lever that you can pull. And
Fasting.
then yeah, dude, I was about to say that one. So for about a month straight, I did intermittent fasting. I would only eat within a 5-hour window every day. And I shredded fat from that. So that's another good one. It's really help mobilize those fatty acids. And then in a little combo you can do. So you wake up, right? You're going to do cold exposure. You're going to drink coffee, fast. Like if you have gut issues, please don't do this. But if you're healed, drink coffee, fasted, black coffee, no calories or anything, just like minimal amount. And then you're going to go onto the stair stepper, or you're going to go on the incline treadmill, and then just do the incline treadmill at 3 speed, 10% incline for like an hour. You will shred fat doing this. Very potent. And then eat a high protein, and then like 2 meals the rest of the day.
Okay.
And then I guarantee, like I promise you that you will shred fat if you do that.
Of course.
It's one of the best combos that I've used personally.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's most helped me lean out and drop a little bit more fat. I initially I had my own little fat loss journey. I was like 60 pounds overweight at 15.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy.
Crazy.
I
So I
was
went through like the nutrition,
yeah.
like the traditional nutritionist path. I lost a bunch of weight with
They
like a
gave you the
trainer
whole grains and stuff.
Yeah, but then I
Yes.
started to like do my own research, right? Really started to eat good, try a little bit of like different supplements. But I found the combo of intermittent fasting and sprints.
Dude, the sprints.
Yes.
Dude, it works
15,
so
20
well.
minutes after your weightlifting. That's it.
Bro, it's insane. It works so sprints. So I have a mountain right by me. So I just get on there
Wow.
and I run uphill sprints like
There
full
you go.
speed for 100 freaking meters. Like it's the hardest thing you will do.
Yeah.
So I'm just like gassed afterwards, but it's very effective for fat loss.
Yeah, you do a couple rounds and
Dude,
right.
yeah. It was I'll have to show you the pictures after this, but I was literally 24% body fat like 11 months ago, and now I'm at like around 13, I would say. I still have some of that visceral fat I'm getting rid of, but
Hey,
yeah, dude, like my shoulders, my legs, my arms, they're very lean and muscular now compared to what they used to be. But dude,
beautiful.
yeah, all of those things really helped me. And I know that fat loss is a very sensitive topic for a lot of people. And I'm not like some fitness coach. So I just decided like I'm going to give this information out for free because for mostly my services, I'm more involved in treating like chronic diseases. I'm more involved in reading somebody's blood work and giving them a treatment plan. That's more my thing. But
Right.
if anybody wanted like blood work for fitness optimization, I wouldn't be against that either because I believe that that's important. And there's a few levers you can pull with your hormones.
Right. So 2 things here talking about sensitive people. Let's talk about free speech.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you want to say?
I would like to say that I find it very ironic that Twitter calls themselves the platform of free speech, but myself and several other very great accounts in the health space have been shadow banned.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Why are you trying to shadow ban people
Right.
in the health space that are speaking their truth? Why are you letting these ridiculous OnlyFans models stay on the platform and not be shadow banned, but the person who's trying to help people with
Right.
health advice is getting shadow banned? I really do question why that is. And the way that I really pieced it together in my mind is that it actually isn't somebody making these decisions and that the algorithm is just doing this by mistake. I
Okay.
actually believe that that's what's going on. Um, because it wouldn't make sense. There's people tweeting like way more harmful crap, like that sepsis can be cured with like olive oil or something. Like all that different. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's way more harmful stuff being tweeted out than the 𝐬𝐿𝐼TOBRO's fat loss
Mm-hmm.
handbook. Like, so I do think that that's accidental, but it's very unfortunate because Twitter serves as a great decentralized platform to promote your business. So I got a lot of my blood work clients from that and just explain like certain supplements, teach people free health advice.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm doing essentially with that is I'm using my Twitter and my existing following to start growing my newsletter. And
Right.
they can't shadow ban your newsletter. So
No.
yeah, that's where I'm going with that now. And Twitter is no longer worthy of my highest quality work
Boom.
until they decide to remove my search ban. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they're not. They're just gonna get like shit posting from me until they do
Mm-hmm.
that.
I
And
love
my
that.
highest quality work from here on out will be in my newsletter,
Mm-hmm.
which I have linked in my Twitter bio, and
I'll
I'll
link
probably
it
link
over here.
bio. Yeah, but I'm actually creating sequences right now and all of my things that I want to talk about in the newsletter, which is a fun
Mm-hmm.
time. But yeah, man, I think
Beautiful.
that America is a great country because we have free speech, and anybody like trying to force you to tolerate their views is kind of like a communist. They're trying to force you to tolerate a certain thing and not being able to have your own views and your own expression of your individuality. And whoever thinks that, like, you can start an argument with me because I think that you are full
Yeah.
of garbage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a really interesting point because something that I've noticed, I mean, one of the main reasons why I dropped out of school, and this is in Mexico City, it's
Yeah.
because we're not being taught how to think, but what to think.
Yeah. You're being taught yep. They're
That annoys
influencing
the
the
fuck
masses, dude.
out of me.
It's
Right,
horrific. Like, that pisses me off.
right.
That
Why?
like they're changing all the history textbooks. They're changing what our children are taught. Like, even for that reason, I sometimes think like maybe I should homeschool my kids.
Right.
Like, dude, it's so bad. It's either that or they're going to a private school that doesn't teach garbage.
I think it's still garbage.
Why are they trying to teach like little kids about all these political things? Like, shouldn't they be learning the ABCs?
Right.
Crazy to me, dude. Or I remember in the fourth grade, I was told by my teacher, red meat is horrible for you. And I was the only kid
Interesting.
in the class who like really challenged them. And I was like,
Really
why do you think that is? And they're like, that's because that's what we're told. And I'm
interesting.
like, why are you listening? I said, like, even as a fourth grader, I was a little based. I was like, what do you mean by that? I was like,
Right.
what do you mean by that's what we're told? Like, don't you have anything to back that up? So it's a big problem. And it's once you kind of get in that framework of the people at the top, I don't know if they want the best outcome for me or not. So I'm going to go and do my own research and I'm going to look things up for myself. I'm not just going
Right.
to sit there and be bossed around and thrown on a bunch of pills and thrown on their retirement plan and thrown on their banking system and
Mm-hmm.
all this crap. I'm not messing with that at all.
Right.
And if they have a problem with that, they can go talk to me about it.
Oh fuck yeah, Chris.
Yeah, man. I get heated about that one
Mm-hmm.
because it's even with like
Rightfully so.
even if you try to express your religion on the internet, people will be like, "Okay, but what about from the non-religious perspective?" And I'm like, "I'm just trying to tell you my perspective, dude. Stop.
Right.
I'm just trying to speak my shit and like I'm not trying to be offensive to anybody. I'm just genuinely trying to express my own individuality in a
Right.
way in which people will not try to force me to tolerate whatever their viewpoint is. Like, I believe that everybody is entitled to their own beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I respect out of every human being, the fact that they can have their own beliefs.
Of course.
Like, that's very important to me.
Mm-hmm. Chris, spiritual warfare.
Dude. All
What's
right.
going
So I will preface that I am a pretty hardcore Christian. So this is going to be from that perspective mainly. But I feel that if you're into like the universe, if you're into the frequencies or whatever, you're
on?
into like some new age stuff, you're into the Eastern stuff,
Mm-hmm.
rather than saying God and the devil, you can just say good energy, bad energy.
Right.
That's how I frame it to people because
Mm-hmm.
I obviously want to be respectful of other people's beliefs, whether I agree with them or not. We all think differently, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
the way that I would put this is there's God, right? And God is the absolute good of the universe. He created it. And
Okay.
then there's the devil, right? He's the absolute bad, and he is a perfect example of something that absolutely fails to live up to God. Now, humans start off neutral. God and the devil, they're trying to pull humans to their side. So the devil is constantly putting things and traps in your life to deploy you to his side. He wants you to spend eternity with him.
Mm-hmm.
God also does things in your life by putting certain people into your life, um, telling you certain things, whether it's through dreams, through outcomes that happen to you, any of these things. Internet bugged out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so God will put things into your life, he'll put people into your life, he'll do anything to direct you towards him. And they're both fighting for you. You start off as an empty canvas as a human being, and then God wants to paint on the canvas, and so does the devil. Let
Mm.
God paint on that canvas. So I believe that constantly there's demons trying to actually influence certain things that are going on in your life. So maybe they'll try to ruin your finances. Maybe they'll try to ruin things for you. Maybe they'll try to put certain thoughts into your head. Maybe they'll try to add certain doubts into your head about certain things that you're going towards in life that God is calling you for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a matter of saying, like, I personally believe in Jesus. So I say, in the name of Jesus Christ, I renounce that.
Mm.
And I say, no, I put my foot down essentially. And yeah, there's so many things in our society that we can take note of that with. So
Mm-hmm.
you look at a college campus, you have a bunch of casual sex, you have a bunch of drug use, and you have a bunch of people objectifying each other. That is a great example of what the devil wants for us because at the end of the day, it leads to a very meaningless feeling in our hearts. And it
Mm.
leads to us actually not reaching our highest selves and holding us back from that. The highest self we can get is a self where we're very close to God.
Of course.
So, yeah, it's a very important thing to consider that
Mm-hmm.
and always be aware of your heart. It's not a matter of following a bunch of rules like most religions will tell you. It's a matter of changing your heart in pursuit of the good, right? Like I can follow a rule where I'm like, all right, I'm going to avoid casual sex. That's completely different than me saying, in my heart, I genuinely feel that it's wrong to have a bunch of casual sex and objectify people like that. So that's the whole point that I kind of like to get at.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important to change the state of your heart and change
Mm-hmm.
your inner stance in pursuit of reaching your highest self
Mm-hmm.
and using God as a means to get through that. So
Of course.
spiritual warfare is all about that battle. Like, am I going to go to the store and am I going to buy a 12 case of Coors Light? I don't like that beer. But am I going to go and get drunk tonight? Or like, am I going to go get wasted tonight? Or am I going to go and sit in my room and do a little bit of praying and get closer to God? What am I going to choose? Like, obviously, the part of me, like the old party animal in me is like, yeah, I would love to go do that and be a degenerate. But my heart and my direction towards God over time started to shift. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't really go out anymore or do any of that stuff because I'm genuinely so dialed on my purpose. And God really helped me figure out all of that, what I want to do with my life, why I'm here, what I'm meant to be, who I'm meant to become. He helped me figure out all of that. And now I think about it all the time and I'm like, you can put any like trap in front of me, Satan, but I'm not going to
Mm.
follow it. Like, you're not going to
Mm.
put that garbage in front of me. So, yeah, that's the big thing with spiritual warfare. And the biggest thing with spiritual warfare out of all, I would say, is man's battle with pride. Now, what I mean by
Mm.
that is, let's say you overcome lust, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're finally able to like look at the other gender in a very normal way without
Right.
having, or you're not watching porn anymore, any of those things. The first thing you're going to do usually is be very prideful and think very highly of yourself and think you're so good. At the
Right.
end of the day, though, we're not called to do that. We're
Right.
called to put ourselves in a lower position and say, I'm still nothing without God. And without him, this wouldn't have been possible. That's the best thing you can do to fight off pride is humility. So one way that I really practice this is no matter who I'm talking to, I believe that I can learn something from them. I
Of
believe
course.
that like even if I'm
That's
talking
beautiful.
to like a 12-year-old, I can still
Mm-hmm.
learn something from them. Even if I'm talking to like, I don't know, like a homeless dude, I can still learn something from them regardless. And it's a matter of not thinking that you're above anybody and
Mm-hmm.
not thinking that you're below anybody, but rather everybody is a genuine child of God that's
Mm-hmm.
going in a certain
Wow.
direction based on their choices. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very important to just put yourself in that situation and believe like, hey, I'm not better than you, you're not better than me. Like I'm willing to learn something out of
Mm-hmm.
this. So yeah, that's one really big thing because humility is very important. And I see so many people get to a very high point in their lives in regards to success. And then they start acting like they're the most wise person alive.
Right.
They
Right.
start acting like they know everything and that the truth that they figured out is the end all be all. They
Mm-hmm.
start acting like they're above other people. They don't talk to anybody unless they're on their level of status.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, if you're that person, you have a big problem with pride and you need to learn how to actually practice
Mm-hmm.
humility. Go humble yourself because it's a very empty feeling at the end of the day.
That was beautifully said, man. And
Thanks, man.
it's a really, really beautiful topic to
Yeah, yeah.
go.
It's one
I
of
think
my
it's very
favorites.
important. I
Yeah.
love it. One of your favorites, and it was really beautifully said, Chris.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
I have time for one last question, and one that I think is very important, Chris. What brings you most joy in life?
What brings me most joy in life? There's two things. So
Mm,
the first thing is my relationship with Jesus Christ.
okay.
Every time I have, um, yeah, every time I have like just an intimate conversation with Jesus, I have a feeling on my heart like no other,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives me the ultimate sense of purpose because
Wow.
you're essentially speaking with the highest level of consciousness in all of creation. And yeah, it's genuinely incredible. And it's something that I would recommend it to everyone to go and give it a chance. Go read the Bible, go
Mm-hmm.
build that relationship. It's not a bunch of rules that you're following, it's a
Mm-hmm.
relationship that you're building with God. And you can bring any problem you have to God. You can bring any concern you have to God. You can bring any intention you have to God. And God just takes all of your problems, He listens to all of them, and just expects you to like Him back in return. Like that's all
Mm,
it is. And yeah, it's truly amazing. That's what brings me the most joy in my life. But my true purpose in life, I believe, outside of that, like my worldly purpose, is helping other people. Ever since I was young, I've genuinely loved helping people. I volunteered and did all that stuff from like a young age because it felt very good.
mm-hmm.
And I believe that the joy that you derive from helping others is way greater than the joy that you derive from helping yourself. So, for
Of course.
example, that's why I love doing blood work, and that's why I love working with people to get them towards their goal. I
Right.
love helping people get past whatever, because I used to have a horrible illness as well. So
Mhm.
I have very much empathy for a lot of people's cases. But
You
yeah,
don't want people to go through what you went through.
yeah, exactly. I want to help them out of that. And regardless of whether it's me that does it or anybody else that does it, I just want other people to win and I want other people to feel better and get them in a position to where they can be on that path to reaching their highest self. And
Mm-hmm.
really, I think that if you're way healthier, obviously, it can be a little bit easier to come to God.
Of
I think that
course.
was my case as well. Like when I was horrifically sick, like I believed in God, but I was like, why would this happen to me? And like my head wasn't clear,
Mm,
all this
mm,
stuff. So the ultimate goal really is to just help as many people as I can make it through whatever they have, whether that's PSSD, so an SSRI injury, any sort of pharmaceutical injury, any sort of vaccine injury, any gut injury, any
mm-hmm.
autoimmune disorder, essentially any sort of illness that modern medicine really can't treat. It really is my ultimate goal to just build a service. And even right now, do my service where I do the blood work readings and the treatment plans. and all that stuff. It is my genuine intention to help those people and to just put a smile on their face with seeing how their life changed. Like, that's genuinely the most important thing to me in terms of my worldly purpose. And yeah, I've always really resonated with the idea of healing. My so I was raised Catholic, and my confirmation saint was Saint Francis of Assisi. So essentially God allowed him to heal lepers on the
Wow.
earth when he did his mission. So, and I randomly picked him at one point in my life, and yeah, I'd say that healing has always been my thing.
Wow. That's beautiful, Chris.
Yeah, man, I
Hey,
appreciate that.
dude, thank you for your time today, for
Dude,
your
of course.
wisdom, everything, bro. I really appreciate it.
Of course, man. I
What
appreciate you for having me on. Very good
whenever I
conversation.
have whenever I have the studio over here in Mexico City, I'm inviting you for round 2. We'll cold plunge first.
Dude, we would be
Yeah,
neurotransmitter maxing.
exactly.
That would be crazy. Yeah, I'm very down. I'll come
Wow.
up to the city.
Fuck yeah, dude.
I'm in
Thank you
Arizona right
again,
now, so
Chris.
it's like a 10-hour drive.
Yeah, it's really close. It's like a 3 hours on the plane, right?
Yeah, 3-hour plane. Yeah, not too bad
Yeah.
at all.
Chris, thank you a lot.
Yes,
Give,
sir. It's
give
been
me
a
a second.
pleasure.